Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. So today let's try to explore budget control. So when I say budget control, it helps to manage organizations' financials, right? So there are a few concepts when you want to explore budget control. So let's try to understand the basics and then we'll go to the setup part. So let's say budget control. So first, when I want to create my budget control, there's something called as budget cycle. So what is budget cycle? Basically, when I define budget cycle in D365, I'm going to define the length of budget cycle. So the length, when I say it could be 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. So depending upon the organization requirement, we're going to define the budget cycle. Then we have budget code. When I say budget code, some people it's also called as like budget type. So there are a lot of budget type available in D365. Just as an example, let's pick up basic. Let's say there is original, then there is transfer or revision. So what is original, transfer, revision? Let's say when I'm posting my budget for the first time, it would be my original budget. Let's say for a period of 1 year in 2023, I posted 1 lakh as original budget. Now, in case if I want to exceed this budget, I can post a revision. In case if they say excess that's pending and I want to move from budget A or expense A to expense B, then I can use transfer budget. So we will see more when we go for system. So that's your budget code. Then we have budget models. So when I say budget models, that means it's just a classification. So when I say classification, like I want to define, I want to say this is the expense for the whole here, or this is the expense for this particular location. I can just use it as a classification. And these are all the basic steps you need to define before you go and set up your parameters. So then we have budget dimensions. So budget dimension, this is not your financial dimensions. Rather, when I say budget dimensions, you got to tell to the system what dimensions you want to use it. In case, let's say main account is one of the dimension, we will add main account as a basic so that we can use for transaction. If you don't add basic dimensions, a main account in your basic dimensions, we have a parameter setup where we can include main account, but rather we will just include main account here in the budget dimensions. So and then if you want to include your financial dimensions along with your main account, let's say you have department, your cost center, so you want to allocate budget to main account with specific dimension combination, then you can use those things. So for now I'm just considering main account. So once you have this basic setup ready, that's when we go for budget control configuration. So we will see more of budget control configuration when we go on doing this system. So these are the basic steps that you need to define when you want to understand or work on budget control. So let's go to D365, define one by one, and then we will understand it more with an example. So let's go to system. So as I explained, the first step for budget control is to create your budget cycle. So to create a budget cycle, go to modules, budgeting. So click on budgeting, then setup, budget control. Here I can see my budget cycle. So budgeting, setup, budget control, budget cycle. So there we're going to define the length of the budget cycle. So here I can see there are a lot of budget cycle already there. Let's create a new one. So click new. I'm just going to use demo. So let's say I can select my fiscal calendar here. So let me select the fiscal calendar which is assigned to my legal entity. Now once I select my fiscal calendar, you have two options. Specify the number of periods or map to fiscal year. If I select map to fiscal year, by default my fiscal calendar will be connected and my fiscal year is 12 months. In case if I want my budget cycle only for 3 months or 6 months, I can say specify number and I can enter those specific numbers. So let's map to fiscal calendar, and once I map to fiscal calendar, my fiscal period will be disabled. Now let's add our calendar. So click add. So starting period, so by default it's going to show it is 2023 because that's the calendar and that's the year currently active under my calendar. So I'm going to select that and end it's automatically picking. So let's say 2023. Click save. That's step one. Step two, let's create budget code. So to create budget code, go to budgeting, setup, basic budgeting. Yeah, I can see basic budgeting, budget codes. So as I told you, budget codes is your budget type. That's your revision or original. So click new. Let's say budget type. As I explained, there are a lot of budget types available. So let's understand what is original budget. So you can give a description. Let's say original and give a description. If you want to assign workflow for that, you can assign. Set it as default. Click save. So I can even add revision and transfer, which we will do later. So that's your budget code. So once budget code is ready, the next step is budget model. So to create budget model, go to budgeting, setup, basic budgeting, and here I can see budget model. Click on that. So budget model is where I define or classify my budget. So let's come to budget model, click new. I'm going to say US. That means I have a legal entity in US, and for the complete location, I want to use this my model. So I would say US model and click save. In case if you want to include submodels, let me give you a very quick example here. Let's say travel. So I want to travel. So travel is my budget. Okay, I have 1 lakh budget for my travel. Now within those travel, I would say for transportation, I will spend 20,000. For stay, I will spend 20,000. For other expenses, I will spend 60,000. Now this becomes my sub model. So travel is a model, that's budget model at a high level, and my sub models would be transportation, then accommodation, and then other expenses, right? So in case if you want to use sub models, you can assign. Sub model is not mandatory, so I'm just sticking with budget model. Click save. So the next step after budget model is my budget dimensions. So when I say budget dimensions, that is where we're going to select what main accounts and what financial dimensions you want to include for your budget dimensions. So go to budgeting, setup, basic budgeting. Here I can see my dimensions for budgeting. So this is the step where we define dimensions for budget. So click on dimensions for budgeting. Here currently I only have main account in my chart of accounts. I have not defined any dimensions and therefore only main account is available. In case if you have defined dimensions, all the dimensions will come here along with main account and you can add which is necessary. So I just need main account, so I'm adding main account and click OK. So that's will save my budget dimensions. So this 4 step is a basic steps that you need to configure before you go for your parameters setup. So in parameters we have a lengthy which we will go one by one. So but the first thing is you need to define these basic steps. So once we have basic steps, now I can go for my budget control configuration. So go to system. Okay, so let's go to budgeting, then go to setup. Let me just collapse. So setup, budget control. Here I can see budget control configuration. So all the parameters setup related to your budget control activities is done through budget control configuration. So we will understand more when we go for transactions. So first click create draft so I can create my budget draft and then we work on the setups. So first is define parameters. So here you can select the account structure which you need to include in your budget. I just have one account structure for all accounts. In case if you have a separate account structure, generally we include our expense account structure in the budget model. So include that. And here I can see my budget dimensions. So here in the budget dimensions, we included main account and therefore I can only use main account. In case if you add dimensions, your financial dimensions here, that would have been available here as well. So let's select main account and add to my budget control dimensions. Then If I scroll down here, I can see budget control interval. So I will say fiscal year because I want for the complete year. Then we created the budget cycle, that is my length. So that you're gonna select here. So demo, remember that's the name we say where my calendar is connected. Select that. Then you can assign a budget manager who can have a look at your threshold limit and those details. Okay. So here we have something called as budget threshold. So I will keep it 90% as a threshold. So when I say budget threshold, so let's say when I reach 90%, do I need to get a warning message that I have reached my budget threshold? So this is not the limit. My limit is 100%, but at 90%, I want to receive a warning message that I'm approaching my budget limit. So I have set this at 90 and I also say I need a message. So this will not stop me from posting transaction, but rather it just gives me a warning message. Okay, so that's your define parameters. So we need to go with all the rules to define. So the next is over budget permission. So when I say over budget permission, let's say I have a limit of 1 lakh. If I reach 1 lakh, do I need to add any users who will have a rights to go over and beyond 1 lakh, or should I restrict users to limit within that 1 lakh? So that's a decision that needs to be taken. Based on that we can configure. So here I can have a different groups, probably let's say approval groups, where I would say I will prevent, or I would say I would allow over budget processing for this group, and I can add one more group, and for that set of users I can restrict my over budget. So currently for this group I am restricting my over budget. So we have three options. You can prevent over budget, you can allow over budget, or you can prevent at budget threshold. So remember we defined a threshold here. So you can define, you can prevent transaction at this stage. So ideally we will keep it 100%, and budget threshold we will use it just as a warning. So I will say prevent over budget. Save. So that's your over budget permission. Budget funds available. So what is budget funds available? So let's understand that more with an example. Let's say 1 lakh is my limit I have set. I will post one transaction for 50,000. Now, what is my leftover budget? It is 50,000 at this point of time. I will create. When I say create, I'm not posting transaction. I'm just creating lines. Let's say I will say 20,000. Now, I need to tell the system, should I consider my balance based on my posted transaction, or should I consider both posted and created transaction? Here I can see actual expenditure, that is nothing but posted, and I can see unposted actual expenditure, that is nothing but created transactions. If I say include both, then my balance would be 30,000. If I say include only actual expenditure, then my balance will be 50,000. So that's why we have actual expenditure, unposted actual expenditure. Similarly, we have other encumbrance as well. So for now, I'm just keeping it at high level. So we will consider only actual, and in case if you want to use unposted, you can use that. So for now, I'm keeping actual expenditure. So that's your amounts to subtract funds. Then we have original budget. Let's say I have posted 1 lakh. At the end of, let's say, 10 months, I have crossed this budget. So I have another 2 months to go. So I need to post an expense for that. So what I can do, let's say this is my original budget. I can post a revision budget. Whatever amount you want, let's say I'll post for 10,000. So when I post a revision amount, my limit will change from 1 lakh to 1 lakh 10,000. So in that case, do I need to consider the revision budget for my limit? I would say yes, because I am posting revision. I want that to be included. In case if I transfer from other budget expense to this budget expense, then I would need to include budget transfer also. So that's your budget amount configuration or budget funds availability configuration. Click save. I'm not using any carry forwards thing. I'm just taking a very simple example. So let's keep amounts to that. Then comes documents and journals. So at what document you want to apply your budget setup? I would say I need for daily journals, I would need for fixed assets journals, I would need for purchase order, I would need for vendor invoice. So you can define at what stage you want it. Okay. So it's not that every document that you post should use your budget control. It depends upon the setup. So that is include in budget control. So I will take daily journals as an example. So I've included this. Now, there's another option, check at line level. So this I will explain more when I go for transaction, but at this stage, so when you create a transaction, even before posting, do you want the system to calculate your budget? So if I enable this, that will work. If I don't enable this, then at the time of posting, it will calculate my budget control. So ideally, it will be good to enable at the line level. So I will enable at the line level. Click Save. Then comes assign budget models. So when I say assign budget model, so far we have created these steps, so that we're gonna assign here. So click add. Budget cycle time span is budget cycle. First, let's say I will select my budget cycle. We will add 2023. So here I created my budget cycle demo. So we're gonna select that. And then starting period, ending period, it's automatically picking. We also created a budget model, right? US model. So that we're going to select here and click save. So all the basic steps that we did, like your budget cycle, your budget model, budget dimension, we've already used. Budget code, we're going to use it when we post budget entries. Okay, save. Then comes budget control rules. So you don't need to actually create any budget control rules uh, for criteria, but click new. You need to just define a simple rule here, which is a mandatory. So let's say selling expense. I want to track all my selling expense. You can give description, click add. I'm not adding any specific criteria here. That means I can say this is a main account and this can be split. So you can add different criteria. So let's not go there, but just define one basic budget control rule and click save. Okay. So then comes select main accounts. Now this option is applicable only if my main account is not included in budget dimensions, because main account is a mandatory to post a transaction. So that's why I would always advise to apply or include main account in budget dimensions. So now that we've included, we can skip this step. Then comes budget group. Again, an optional step. So we don't need this. Let's skip. Then by message level, this is for all the messages. So let's more focus on transactions. So now comes to activate budget control. So what activate budget control does, let me just duplicate a tab. So what budget control activation does is, once I activate this, only then I can use this. So click activate and then click activate. So once I activate this, then I can use this for application. So once my budget is activated, I can see when it is activated and activated by. So once this happens, 1 second. Okay, so after activation, now I can turn my budget on. So once I turn it on, then it will be used for transaction calculation. So let's turn on the budget. So click turn on and it will turn on the budget. Okay, so now this is active and this is turned on. I can see budget is turned on. So far, we have defined all the basic setup. We have defined few criterias, but we never define any amount. So where do you gonna define your amount? That's done in budget register entries. Okay, so for whatever we did, it's all related to setup. Now we will post our budget register entries. Okay, so let's select one main account here as an example. Let's say marketing expense. So I'm going to set a limit. So this is main account which I'm going to add. Let's say 1 lakh. So this is the amount we're going to include in my budget register entry. So first let's post this, then we will discuss more details. So to post budget register entries, go to modules, go to budgeting. So let's see here. So go to budgeting, and here under workspace, I can see budget register entries. Click on that. So now click new. So here select budget model. So we just have configured one model. So I'm going to select for this model. And what is the budget code? Original budget code. Select that. And then click add lines where we add the line details. So this is where I'm going to select marketing expense. That's my main account. So select the marketing expense account. I have created one main account for that. Then what is the amount? Let's say 100. So I'm selecting 1 lakh here. So this is where your amount setup comes into picture. So far it was all setup related, and this is where I pushed my limit. So we'll say 1 lakh. Expense is already there, USD currency, and click save. So once I click save, now you can see update budget balance is enabled. So right now when I save, it's in the draft stage, and you need to make sure you click on update budget balance and then click update. So once it's completed, now I can see the status. It is changed to completed. So initially it will be draft. After budget balance update, it will become completed. So now my budget is ready. So we will take scenarios as an example. So my expense is 1 lakh, which we have posted. Okay. Remember, we have set the threshold limit. And threshold limit was 90%. So that is 90,000. And what we have done at the threshold, warning message has to come. When I reach my threshold, I need to get a warning message. If I exceed my fund, let's say exceed, that is anything more than 1 lakh, let's say, it should restrict me to post the transaction, right? And this is what we have set up. So just to quickly show a glance of that. So here I have said I'm going to use main account. If I exceed my fund, I'm going to prevent. So that's defined here. Budget funds available. Okay. This we will again see during transactions. Okay. Documents and journals. I've enabled my budget for daily journals. So let's go for daily journals. Let's say I'll go for another tab. Let's say go to home. So I want to post a GL transaction. So go to general ledger. Because I've enabled budget for this, journal entries, journals. Click new. Then select your journal names. Go to lines. Okay, so here select the account. Remember, budget register entries is posted only for marketing expense account. So I'm going to select marketing expense. Then enter the amount. Just to show how budget works, let's say I'll be within the limit. I'll select 50,000 and select your offset account. I'm going to select cash as of now. Now at this stage, if I click save, my budget check results will be performed. Why it will perform at line level is because in your setup, if I come here documents and journals, there is an option called check at line. I've enabled. Since I've enabled this, at this stage if I click save, you can see my budget check will be performed. You can see budget check is passed. So this is performed at this stage because I've enabled this checklist. If not, when I click post, only then system will validate your budget. Now that we are within the limit, system has checked my budget and it says budget check is passed. Now I can just click post and post the transaction. Okay, so my transaction is posted. So at this point of time, I have used or posted a transaction of 50,000. What is my leftover budget? It is 50,000 because my budget fund calculation, if I go to budget funds, it is original plus revision budget plus transfer. We just a original budget which was 1 lakh minus actual expenditure. I'm considering only post transaction. So we still have a fund of 50,000. Now, if I reach 90,000 or if I cross 90,000, I should get a warning message because my threshold limit is at 90%. So let's go to another transaction. We'll create a new transaction. We'll try to cross 90,000. So select your journal names, then go to lines. So select the same main account because that's where my budget setup is there, budget control. So remember, I should cross 90,000. So I will say 41,000. So in this case, what happens? I'm crossing my budget threshold by 1,000. So let's select this, select my offset account, that is cash, click save. So my budget perform will work here. So here, if you see, system says a warning message, and if you can read here, I know it's little missing, but if you just see, it says that transaction exceeds budget threshold for dimension value by 1000 USD. So this is just a warning because here in my threshold, I have given 90%. Okay, I'm just showing all the setup, how it will reflect in the transaction. And I said display a message. So that's why system is displaying this message, but it will not restrict me from posting. I can click post and system will post the transaction. If you see here, this is the warning message which I got, but still I was able to post the transaction. I can see my voucher which says that transaction is posted. Okay, so let's say so now we have posted 41,000. So what I have done, I have crossed my threshold limit and system throw a warning message. Now if I exceed the fund, I want to restrict, so that I have controlled here over budget permission. I am saying prevent. So let's say we have 91,000. I have a leftover fund of 9,000. Let's say I want to post 10,000. If I try to post 10,000, system should not allow me to post the transaction. So go to again journal entries. Let's create a new entry. So click new, select your journal names, go to lines. Let's try to post a transaction with 10,000, and as per my budget setup, it should not allow me to post. So select your expense, enter the amount 10,000 and select your offset account, which will be cash, and click save. As soon as I click save, my budget check will be performed, and here you can see it's an into. So what's the difference between warning and your error message? In the warning, it had a triangle and it was in yellow. In case if it's an error, it will be into and it will be in red. Okay, so my system says I will not be able to post a transaction because the budget fund available is exceeded by 1000 USD. Why 1000? Because 1 lakh is a limit and I have posted 1 lakh already, and I'm trying to exceed it by 1000 by including this 10,000, and that's why system is not allowing me to post transaction. So this will restrict your transaction posting. Now we have other budget code called as revision budget. Let's say the exceed fund was 1 lakh 1,000. Now I have already posted 1 lakh, or here I would say 91,000. I want to post this 10,000. So I want to increase my available fund. So what I can do is I can post a revision transaction. So through revision, we will increase the budget. So let's say I want to post revision for 10,000. Okay, so let's go to system and post that 10,000. So to post your budget register entry, we need a budget code. So if I go to basic budgeting, budget codes, which we have already seen. So we have posted or created one for original budget. Click new. Let's create one for revision. So select revision, and only then I will be able to post my revision budget. So click save. It will anyway default. So now I can post my budget register entries. So go to budget register entries. Here I have posted original click new. Let's post one for revision. So select your budget model and US model and make sure you select your revision and not the original budget. So then click add line. So revision allows you to modify the existing one. So select the same marketing expense main account and enter the amount that you want to increase. So I want to increase by 10,000. So I will enter 10,000. Click save. Once saved, click update budget balance and then click update. So once the revision budget is updated, so now if I see here, my 1 lakh has become 1 lakh 10,000. Now if I try to post the existing 10,000 transaction, system should allow me to post. So let's go back to system. Okay, so let's say journal voucher. So now go back here. I think I'm exceeding my threshold. So what is the new amount? 1,10,000, and 90% of that, if I take 1,10,000 into 90%, so I should get a warning message if I cross 99,000. So here I am crossing my 99,000 by 2,000. Let's say I'm trying to post 1,01,000. System will allow me to post because my actual budget is 110. But since it's 90,000, 99,000 at a threshold, I will get a warning message. So let's go back to the same transaction which I created earlier. Refresh and click save. And you can just click post. Now that I've revised my amount, when it's posting, it will take the new value. If you see here, transaction posted, I can see voucher here, and I get this warning threshold that I crossed my 90% budget by 2,000 because that's the new threshold, 99. I've crossed this, but system allowed to post because 110 is my revised budget. So that's how you can post your original budget, your revision budget. Similarly, you can create one transfer and you can post from one main account to other main account. So that's your budget control. Hope this will help you to understand a bit about budget control. Thanks everyone. Have a good day.